Thank you so much for joining me. I'm Donna Reiners, and welcome to a space for women. Women. And I just want to say to you, woman, be brave and love yourself. Be brave and love yourself because you're worth it. What gets in the way of our loving ourselves? It is our emotions. Is it our mindset? Sometimes, absolutely. The mind goes into it, but the emotions are so strong to get in our way because we feel condemned, or we feel not worthy, or we feel accused, or we feel like we're flawed, or we feel great loss, or we feel denied, or we feel like we just don't fit in. Do you know all those emotions, all those feelings are like blockages? Now, listen, this is the thing though. It's very interesting when you are moving in the arena of wanting to be healed in your emotions, because usually we don't realize we even need healing. Why? Because we think we're good. But let me talk to you for a minute about how emotions show up and how we can recognize imbalances. This isn't the end all, but I want to, I'll share a little snippet about something. During the year when we had our nation shut down, I had some real strong emotional issues, and I was definitely out of balance. And at the time, at first, I just didn't know what was happening. But then I got it, right? But I was so angry that I would take my hair and I would twirl it around and I'd pull it just to keep me from punching out your daylights. And I did come across something that helped that part of my body repair and rebuild so that I was no longer doing that. It took about 6 months. But what was that? That was an emotional imbalance. That was a chemical imbalance. That did have to do with my hormones. But it was more than hormones. I was filled with inflammation. I was filled with all sorts of things happening in my body chemically that were causing me to feel like I was losing my mind. There are many women that feel like they're losing their mind privately, and they don't tell anybody. They don't tell a soul because it feels so overwhelming on the inside. Someone asked me the other day, well, what age group is this for? And I had to stop and think. It's really hard to say because my age in the 60s, this might be common. And though I've not had biological babies, this is what I know from my friends who've had children, that everything on the inside is completely basically moved around, and it takes about a year for your body to come back to any kind of hormonal balance, right? Now listen, this whole group is not all about hormones. I'm just giving you a preface for a moment, so stay with me. That the imbalance inside that can sometimes, many times, have to do with the hormones. I'm just sharing with you, if you are a mom, and if you have gone basically for the last 20 years having children and bebopping along and keeping on moving, and you have all these emotions that are doing this, this, and this, and this, it's because you have some imbalance happening inside of you, and it's been so long term. Maybe you're used to it now, but the truth is that can be balanced, and you don't have to feel crazy. This is the thing. I work with women, and they feel like they're going nuts, and guess what? They're not nuts. And sometimes you go to a doctor who wants you to think you're nuts, or wants to put you on some type of antidepressant because they don't want you to be unhappy and depressed. But then guess what's happening? You're not really addressing the actual problem. You're not addressing the real problem because you don't want to think that there could be a problem with you, but going to get something to help you feel better might be the go-to, but it's not helping you really on the inside. That's one part, hormonal. The other part is we have emotional triggers. And we don't know. And there's some people who think, well, I'm good. I don't have any issues. And maybe you don't. Or maybe you don't recognize the issues. Maybe you don't realize that there might be something happening that you don't know is in this same space. Maybe it doesn't happen often enough for you to feel like you have any kind of problem with your emotions. The other thing is, I've never met a healer that didn't need healed, and I would find it difficult to work with anyone in the emotional healing realm that had it all together and had no problems. Because we always have something to overcome, something to look at, something to be challenged in, and some kind of emotion that is hitting us for us to be able to either recalibrate or identify or what have you. So what are triggers? I'm going to give you an example of a trigger. I was looking at something this morning and I thought, you know what, I'm just going to share some of this. Now, this may or may not be, quote unquote, applicable to you, but if you'll think a moment and see how it could apply to you maybe with a different emotion, I think it could help you. So listen, feelings are very, very powerful. And we don't always know where they come from. And for instance, there was a time years ago I was inundated with emotions so deep. All I could do was feel an intense pain inside. And I was like, what is happening? Now, for you, that might be a guilt, or it might be sadness, or grief, or it could be a mourning, or it could be a depression, or a despair, or it could be an anger, or a confusion. It doesn't matter what emotion it is. Whatever it is, all of a sudden just boom, it's there. Well, where did it come from and why is it there? And so it was literally, this moment was as if somebody was dying. It was like and this is what I felt. I felt like someone's husband had left a person for someone else. It was the oddest feeling. So some people say, well, I just had eyes to see, right? Oh, I see this happening with you, and I see that happening. But guess what? That's not what was happening. But guess what happened to me? Because I connected so strongly with this other person. Okay, so I was in a situation where there was a woman I was having conversation with, and then I was hit with this emotion, okay? And but what it did to me is I thought, all of a sudden I had suspicion come inside of me. A suspicion. Now that suspicion was not there before. That suspicion was there all of a sudden. And guess what happened? I started thinking about my husband. Was he seeing someone else? What's happening? It's like these deep feelings were so real, I thought they were mine. Do you understand? I thought they were mine. Now again, for you, it may not be that kind of feeling. It could be sadness. It could be, now I'm dealing with the negative emotions, not the positive emotions today. I'm dealing with the negative, okay? So it could be any myriad of emotions, right? So what happened is I felt divided. I literally felt split in two. And it was as if all of a sudden I was two people with two decisions, two lifestyles, two opinions. And it's like I was caught between two worlds, and I felt like I was trapped, and it was so strange, and it was so deep, and my inside knew that I had made a decision that was not true to the real me. It was such an odd experience, y'all. And I felt this devastation on the inside. All this is happening really, really fast, right? Do your emotions happen fast with you? Do they? Listen, if you can relate at all, I'd love for you to comment that you relate, that you understand how emotions can all of a sudden just show up. And if you catch the replay, please click, I caught the replay. I'd appreciate it. And so now look, this is what happened next. these emotions are hitting me. This is going on. And all of a sudden, I had a flash. I had a flashback. And I remember sitting in a ski lift with my first husband years and years ago. At the time, he was my boyfriend. And so I was sitting with my boyfriend's father on a ski lift. And we were literally discussing marriage. We were discussing me getting married to his son. Now, this was a long time ago, like early 80s, okay, long time ago. And we were discussing the wedding, and he literally asked me a straightforward question. He said to me, so, why are you marrying? I mean, he wasn't unkind, he wasn't rude, now remember, this is a flashback, this is a memory of an actual instance. Why are we marrying? And at the time we were discussing life, and it was so interesting. And, at the time I had no clue the wisdom he was speaking from. And he asked me, like I said, why are you marrying? And I said, well, basically, and I think at the time I was really arrogant, and I just didn't realize I was arrogant because I'm young. I think I know everything. And I basically said, well, we've been together for such a long time. We just want to give it a shot. And I look back and go, oh my God, I thought I wanted to give marriage a shot. Is that why I want to give marriage a shot? I'm like, what the freaking hay was I thinking? And so you can see the ridiculousness, the absolute ridiculousness, and how inexperienced I was. And so I had a lonely mouth. Anybody who says that is lonely and is trying to find help. But guess what was happening? He knew that we were destined for failure. Why? He was on his second marriage. He had life experience. I did not. But guess what? He didn't say a word. He didn't say anything. I don't think I had ears to hear if he had said anything. And so that happened. This whole stuff is going on in my brain. So I had this split in two, had all these things happening when I'm talking to this lady, had all this, and all of a sudden I'm thinking about this. This was seconds, right? I'm thinking about what happened on the ski lift, and then I'm back and I realized, whoa. And then guess what? Then I saw myself, I saw another memory. Look, this is all tying together. If something comes to your mind while I'm talking, write it down, because God is talking to you, okay? So then I saw myself in a white wedding dress. Guess what? It was my white wedding dress when I got married. And my bridesmaids, close friends, family, witnesses, they were all in front of me. So they're all in front of me. I'm in the back of the church. I'm about to walk in. And we're about to do our marriage vows and all that jazz. We're fixing to get married. My dad was in my eyesight. And I panicked. And I turned around. And I admitted to my closest friend, I said, I just can't go through this wedding. And she looked at me. She put her hands on my shoulders and she said, you listen to me. There is a church full of people waiting for you, and you are going to get married. And she turned me around, and I kept walking. But I was cognizant, literally at that moment, the pressure I felt, the have to I felt to get married. I have to get married. I feel the heaviness right now. The have to get married. I felt this have to. But I knew when I moved forward, walking down that aisle, that I was making one of the biggest mistakes of my life. And I was young, but I knew. Let me ask you a question. What do you think that was? That was the voice of the one who lives inside of me telling me, this is a big mistake. Don't do it. Now, I know the controversy. Well, God puts people together, all that. Maybe so. I'm just telling you, God was telling me this is a big mistake. But instead of listening, what did I do? I did the have to. I have to. So now, return to real time. So those flashbacks, they happen in the middle of an emotional whirlwind. I started weeping uncontrollably. I was conflicted emotionally. I definitely was unable to think straight. I took a ride, hoping to come to my senses. All these things were happening, and my emotions are worsening because I tried to run away by taking a ride. Now, funny how you can attempt to run away, but you really can't hide, right? We can't hide from our emotions. We can't hide from the one who lives inside of us. We cannot hide. We cannot hide from ourselves, y'all. It is the way it is. And so that suspicion that my husband's having an affair was with me. And I felt divided like two people. And so when your emotions gain a stronger hold on you than your reasoning, that's a dangerous place. So what does that do for me? It moves me into a place to ponder. I'm pondering. So I went and I got still, and I went to think, and I went to listen. And I got still, and I listened again. And then I listened some more. And I waited, and I stopped, and I awakened to this uproar of emotions that I'd succumbed myself to. And literally, you have to stop, and you have to think about what is happening with yourself. You cannot just, if you give yourself into those emotions, which a lot of us do, there needs to come a time where you stop and identify, wait, I'm having an emotional uproar. I'm having a moment, and this needs to stop. Because when you can come to that, you can come to a place of clarity. So I came to this rush of clarity. I came back to myself, in other words. And I saw what had happened to my emotions. I mean, I saw it. I'm like, oh. So this is the thing. That day, I had spent time with a young friend. And, I'd said I was with this person. And I was packing her kitchen and helping her move. She was stressed. She was unhappy. She wanted to run and hide. She was holding back resentment because she was having to move. She didn't want to move. She was continuing to pack box after box after box. But guess what? She was denying the fact that in the inside she was fractured inside because she just didn't want to move. She didn't want to. And she was dividing inside. And so she was literally choosing a broken pathway instead of a level road. And she was moving across the country to work with someone who is married to his career. And so what she really wanted was to be loved. But guess what? He was in love with a dream of being rich. So all this is making sense to me. This next day, after being basically the last 24 hours in this throw of all these emotions, including suspicion, la, 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 and I come to my senses and realize, oh, this is from that. This is from that situation. This is from that conversation. This is from me caring for this woman. Listen, you got to care for people. But this was from that situation. I connected so deeply. Again, I connected so deeply that I brought on, there was an empty space for that to land inside of me. That's on me. That's not on them. And so what did I do? Let me tell you something. You have to make solid decisions in the midst of things. When you come to your senses, you still need to make some good decisions. Well, I have learned over the years, and I coined this phrase, that emotions will run you until they will run you until they ruin you unless you renovate them. That is a Donna Reiners quote right there. And so my feelings were rich and they were deep. And they had taken me to a place where I actually thought my spouse was having an affair. That is how deep those emotions went inside of me. Why? Because of the dividedness that was happening inside of that young lady and regarding her desire to be with someone else, to be with someone, and the split that was happening inside of her. And so I was taken in by her emotions. And so what did I do? I confronted my spouse with her feelings. And I really felt like something was wrong, but I was just trying to figure it out. And so what came to my mind was that I was not first choice. And I had all these emotions, one after another, after another, another. And you can't tell me you don't understand, because we are girls, and this is how it rocks and rolls, right? So what did I do? I'm going to take a sip of coffee, and I'm going to tell you what I did. I confronted my husband. I wasn't mean, I wasn't ugly. But I said, I'd like to ask you a question. And he said, okay. And I said, are you having an affair? I just straight up asked him. He was shocked. He responded with, no, are you? And we discussed this ridiculous notion, and we discussed the accusation that I was bringing to him. Now, I didn't bring it in an accusatory tone, but that landed on him like if I was accusing him. And so I was feeling broken inside. I literally felt unwanted by him. And it wasn't even him. And believe me, the man had no time to have an affair. My husband was not having an affair. But my feelings were so raw and so real, and it felt so real, it was as if they were my own. Do you ever have a situation where you have something unexplainable that comes on you, in you, you think it's yours, and you live the next day, the next week, the next 2 weeks, the next 3 weeks, the next months, the next years, and then you lost sight of the fact that it's possible, it's just possible, it wasn't you in the first place? Listen, this is real junk. This is real stuff. If you can identify where something came from and get it, move it out of you, and you can, it's not just a spiritual transaction. I know you want it to just be spiritual. For the spiritual gurus, I want to tell you, it is 99% of the time, a spiritual transaction is not going to solve your issue. And if you're part of the 1%, you're not going to be able to relate to the people that are the 99%, because it's landing in the body. It's not landing in the spiritual area. Your spiritual area is strong. Your spiritual area is where the Christ lives inside. Your spiritual area is where God himself, the creator of you, is strong, is solid, not divided, not confused, not sad, not unhappy, not depressed, not in despair, not freaking out, not mad at the world, not feeling lonely. No, solid. So that space is clear and true. But instead, what happens is our soul and our body gets all messed up. And then we try to have a spiritual solution for something when it's not a spiritual problem. So I want to help you work out real issues in your real body and your real soul so you can have real freedom in a real world that needs you to be sane, to be solid, to be relatable, to be true, and to be in love with you and in love with humanity, because you're loved by an amazing God who already lives inside of you, right? And so this deep intimacy I had with God was a very strong strength for me, because that place to connect is my center. But sometimes we want to get to center, and then we still want to logicize everything. We want to spiritualize everything. We need to have a scripture for everything. And let me tell you, your scriptures are not going to be relatable to somebody else. Nobody needs a scripture when they're in pain. Nobody needs a scripture when they're feeling confused and divided. Nobody needs you to cram the Bible down somebody's throat or cram God down their throat. What they need is they need real freedom, and they need to understand why they feel the way they feel. And so I want you to think for a moment. I want you to take a deep breath. Maybe take a few of them. Let's take a few breaths. And I want to ask you, do you ever feel split in two? If so, how long have you felt that way? Has it been a long time? I don't know. Has it? I don't know. I'll tell you, I'm not going to go into this right now, but I was confused for 20 years once, and it was not my confusion. And when I was able to see it and identify it and remove it from my body, clarity came. I was like, oh my gosh. And whole area of my life opened up because of removing that area inside of me that was filled with confusion that was from another person that I had so connected with so deeply. And I think part of me did not want to let it go, because I loved this person so much, and I wanted a relationship with that person so much. It was my dad, to be quite frank. And then when he passed away, I didn't even realize it was his confusion. But when he passed away, it's like I clung on the inside to anything that I had that was from him that I could remember him with, because we didn't have the greatest relationship at all. And so for me, anything I had from him was good. Not knowing, I was also clinging to the negative part that was impacting me in such a negative way, you know. And so, do you ever feel split in two? I think today that's what we're going to discuss. Feeling divided, feeling split in two. Maybe sad one minute, Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde type of stuff. That is an emotional thing. That is an imbalance. That's something from it could be a body trauma from your own life. You know, it could be from someone else's life. It could be a root in the womb. I know I'm going deep. I'm just going deep, guys. So the point is, I want you to be able to love you in the midst of all this that you experience that you don't understand on the inside of you. I want you to be able to love yourself unconditionally. I want you to be able to stop and look yourself in the eye. I wish I cleaned my mirror. Yep, I don't think I can clean it right now. But I want you to stop and look yourself in the eye and look yourself in the mirror. And I want you to tell yourself 1,000 times, I love you, 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 even if you don't feel it. And listen, I know the reality. The reality is there are some of you that don't feel loved by your spouse, don't feel loved by your family, don't feel loved at work. You don't feel loved by yourself, like on the inside. But you don't tell anybody because you're an adult. And so you need to be sane and you need to be mature. Or you're a healer, and so you don't feel like you can be messed up to help other people. But the truth is, you're not relatable if you don't have anything inside of you that's not messed up. It's just reality. I mean, I was thinking to myself, I was a little nervous today, which I'm not ever nervous in front of the camera. I don't know why. I just love it. I love doing this kind of work. And but I was a little nervous today. And I thought, well, why am I nervous? And it's because I really, truly love myself. And I don't really ever deal with any condemnation. But I remember being condemned. I remember feeling condemned. I grew up condemned. I grew up rejected. I grew up in a very negative environment. My family and friends just were not kind. And I don't know anybody who didn't really grow up that way. I mean, well, I know a few people that didn't grow up that way, but most people did. But I didn't realize that the toll that took on me emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually, even financially, had that impacted me on the long term. You know, when we're young, we don't think about when we're 60 and 70 how that's going to impact our world. We're not thinking long term. And so I have a heart to help us move forward and make the best and the most of the life we have left on this planet. To honestly make it a place of joy. Now listen, there are some people that just want to avoid it all, say, screw it, I don't care. I'm just going to go start over. I'm just going to ditch all this and go start over. Can we do that? Maybe. But I wonder if it doesn't catch up with us anyway. You know, sometimes I think, wouldn't it be fun to just literally transplant to another country and start over where nobody knows you and be whoever you want to be? Be a different person than you are. Maybe you're full of insecurity, or maybe you're full of sadness and you just want to take on a new face and take on a new way of doing things. But wherever you are, there you are. And that part of you that you want to start over with is still with you. You can pretend like it's not there, and you might get away with it. You might even get away with it for a few years. But really, truly, eventually you catches up with you. And that you that's inside of you that is just crying out to find the real you is within you. And so there are a few things you can do. One is, I just want to say that inside you lives a real God with real love that created you, that is front and center inside of you, that has purpose for you, for everything you're walking through, and wants to not just walk in it with you, but walk with you in it and with you the whole way, and has always walked in it and been with you from the beginning. And that person, the person that is love and just nothing but love, wants you to experience the love that's already inside of you for you. And this is the thing. Some of you act like you love people, but you don't really love yourself, and you don't love anybody else because you can't love anybody unless you love yourself. But you act like you do because you wouldn't want anybody to know, because you don't want the gig to be up. Maybe you work in a professional situation and people need to, you have to walk out life with people. But this is the thing, if you're not going deep with people, then they don't know the real you anyway, And so that was really, truly just kind of out of left field that came into my heart. And so whoever that's for, I pray that you'll understand that authenticity is the best way to go. And being authentic and being willing to be authentic around people who are not authentic is sometimes a test. It's interesting. My husband, he works in corporate America currently. And he's around people all day long that are just kind and this, that, and the other. But, they work for him. So, of course, they're kind, And we were talking one day, and he said, Donna, we have work friends, and then we have personal friends. And when you have your work friends, they aren't necessarily your real friends. And that was troubling for me at first because, honestly, I'm just all in. This is me. This is it. This is me. But people don't always like the me. Not because I'm projecting for you not to like me, but I'm just, this is it. This is me, And when you know you're around work friends, and so you have your work friend face on, you can't always be real. So, for instance, let's say you're in a situation where, you just lost someone, or you have something troubling happening, but you still have to show up every day at work. You're not necessarily going to share that with people, right? Because that's not the intention of that environment and that atmosphere. But if you're in that situation all the time, day in and day out, day in and day out, you don't have anybody you can get real with, you're going to die on the inside. And so I want to help you and me in our emotions walk through everyday life while sometimes understanding that there's something that's back here that has rooted itself in such a way that it's keeping us from moving forward. So we can pull up that root and then put new soil in that area, which for me is the love of God. Let love pour in that area so that that area can be renewed and rebuilt and empowered to start over. And I'll tell you that I have started over in certain areas of my life over the years that I've been doing this kind of work in myself or in other people. There have been times when I have rooted up something so deep and so unimaginable that it took 6 months to a year to renew an area, because it's literally like I started over like a baby, like I couldn't even walk. And that can be scary to people. But I want to encourage you that it's worth it. Why is it worth it? This is why it's worth it. Because, girlfriend, listen to me. Because you're valuable and you have purpose, and you should not have to hide from anybody. You need to be able to be you, the real you, but the real you is a love to you. The real you is the true you. The real you is a joy. And you might be around people that you don't think find you to be a joy. You might be around people that you're yoked to, that you just can't get out of that situation, and you wouldn't even if you wanted to, just because maybe you've been in it for so long, or you have genuine love for that person, so you're not going anywhere regardless. So the issue is how we feel about us. We're the only ones in control of us. Even when you're yoked in a situation where someone else has got issues as much as you do, and their issues make you feel like you've got issues, you can still love you completely unconditionally. So I want to help you navigate through the world of your emotions. We're going to sometimes take an emotion and dissect it and work through it so that you can identify where it came from, why it's there, and pull it out so you can move forward. We're going to identify sometimes where there are emotions that are not you at all. And again, work ourselves in a place where we're moving forward without it, so you can find out what is inside you. Who are you? What are you about? Why don't you love you? You know? These are things I've had to work through for many years because of my background. And I can just tell you that it's been worth the journey. It's been worth it to love myself. It's been worth it to pull out condemnation, so I'm not always thinking about sin. I'm not always wondering if I'm in sin. I'm not always wondering about if I feel guilty. I'm not thinking about feeling guilty. I'm not thinking about where I'm wrong all the time. Does that mean I'm not making mistakes? Of course I make mistakes. You know, there's a difference between making a mistake and doing something with intention with a wrong attached to it. Those are two different spaces. But you know, you can make a mistake in some spaces and people just don't care what your intention was. You messed up and that's the end of that relationship or whatever, right? And so you have to learn how to walk through these bumps in the road with you and love you anyway, even if other people turn you down or deny you or stop talking to you or whatever. And that has been a lot of lifetime for me. And I've found purpose in it. There are many people that don't find purpose in their lifetime of experience, and they end up depressed, in despair, lonely, etc., when you don't have to. Find your gift. Find your strongest weakness, and I bet you found your strongest gift, your strongest strength. And if we can help you move forward, that is the great joy. And at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, I'm going to just tell you straight up, it's all about loving you in the midst of you. It's about the mess you're in becoming a message. It's about you loving other people. It's about you really, truly receiving this great love that lives inside of you already and recognizing that the love inside of you is not out here, but it's inside, even if you feel like the crummiest person on the planet, you know? And it's about, if you're willing, going on the road to discovering you. There are many in the religious world that would say self-love is bungo. And I just want to say that that's a lie. You know, loving yourself is the most important thing you'll ever do on this planet. Because if you're not loving others, it's because you don't love yourself. And the only way you can love yourself is by receiving the love that's from this God who lives inside of you. But let me tell you the secret. The secret is that it's a real relationship. It's not religious. It's not based on you doing anything. It's not based on saying yes to any dress. It's not based on anything. Nothing. No matter who you believe in, no matter what you believe in, the one who lives inside of you, that's the one that goes with you, and that person is a person of love. So it's identifying and coming into that space where you really see it and you feel it and you experience it, and then you let that be your frequency that flows out from you. And some people are going to be rejected by that frequency because they don't want anything to do with love. Some people only want to be punished. I know. I used to be one of them. I used to be the person I needed you to yell at me for me to get a point. And now I don't. Or maybe I needed to feel punished in order to feel like I could deserve anything, and now I don't feel that way. And then there are some people that you're around people that make you feel punished all the time. But let me just say, they don't make you feel anything. That's because it's inside of you, not inside of them. It might be inside of them, but what you're feeling is inside of you, not them. And even those emotions that I picked up in that situation, how did that happen? What was the root? The root was the memory of remember in the beginning, I told you the story about feeling divided and emotionally having some just strong emotions and instability for that 24 hours. Pardon me. And how, but the memory was, the flashback was sitting on the ski lift with my boyfriend's dad, and then seeing myself in my wedding dress walking forward, saying yes when I knew I was supposed to say no. Those were the roots. That was the entry pathway for these emotions that came upon me. Because those things, those places where I refused to see that that was a no and not a yes, I could have changed the trajectory of my life, and I didn't. No condemnation. That was just the entryway. So then I dealt with those emotions from those two situations. And I did some personal, I'm not going to do that today, but I did do some personal work with that, which I can show you how to do another day, where that's the whole intention of the meeting versus just throwing that in at the last minute. I don't want to do that to you. I don't think that's kind. And also I'm going to be holding like little boot camps and little times, challenges and things where we go through emotions together, maybe spend 3 to 5 days together, not like 5 days, not 5 hours a day or anything like that, but spend some intentional time together to help you get free from some things. And so anyway, I bless you and I love you. This is Donna Reiners. I'm glad we're here together. I'm going to end with this. This is hope. It says, it's a verb, to look forward to with desire and reasonable confidence, and to place trust in. I personally just call this, hope is bold confidence. That's what it is. And you are in a time in your life when it is okay that you have bold confidence. Now, do you want to have arrogance? No. But you want to have a bold confidence. I was watching a video yesterday by this gentleman. Oh my gosh, I can't remember his name all of a sudden. I can't remember his name. It starts with E. Anyhow, he's talking about the grace of God and the love of God, and he's just all about the love of God. And he said, you know what? People cannot truly have humility until they are empowered. And I thought, I agree. I agree. True humility for me is knowing all you're about, everything. You know, I used to say this about Jesus. I personally believe in Jesus. And in my belief in Jesus, I've got some tweaking there with regards to life in him and the Christ that lives inside and that kind of thing. It's not a religious relationship for me, it's relationship. But I used to say true humility is knowing everything that Jesus does and is inside, and being good with it, being empowered by it, and not being bowed down by it. But everything he is and everything that he's got is for me too. And it's for you. Why? Because the voice and the thoughts and the ideas and the life and the love and the Christ and the reality and the foreverness and the eternity and the maturity and just everything that has to do with who you are lives inside of you. You were designed on purpose perfectly. The design of the Christ was inside you when you were born. You were designed, and that design came forth. And so you are perfect. You are not imperfect. You are not flawed. You are perfect. You have access to the one inside of you who created you like him. like Father, Son, and Spirit, like them, like them. And for those of you who love to talk about the mother part, the female part of God, I agree. It's not just male, okay? So don't get, at the end here, get all upset with me. It's not that at all. There is a balance. And it's all about knowing yourself, knowing the love that lives inside of you, and then maturing in your emotions, developing that place inside of you that is weak and unstable to be your strength so you can move forward. Anyway, I bless you. This is Donna. Hope to